Good evening. Welcome to another episode of OmenG's Stupid Scary Stories. Once again, I'll be reading from the book Connecticut Ghost Stories and Legends by Thomas D'Agostino and Arlene Nicholson, part of the Haunted America series. Tonight's story, The Ghosts of Pachaug State Forest. As the shadows grow long and darkness envelops the terrain around Pachaug State Forest, unearthly shrieks permeate the wooded domain. They are the shrieks of an Indian girl who was killed by British soldiers over 3 centuries ago. The once flourishing village that is now deserted thicket is host to several creepy entities, from colonial soldiers to the wraith of a little girl. There is even a black misty figure that stalks visitors to the foreboding wood. The ghosts seem to fall neatly into the history of the forest. Pachaug is Indian for bend in the river. The Narragansett, Mohegan, and Pequot tribes inhabited the area. Toward the end of the 17th century, the colonists began to settle there and convince the Mohegan tribe to be rid of the others. After they had gained the help of the Mohegans in successfully ridding the region of the other 2 tribes, the colonists then turned on the Mohegan tribe, forcing them out as well. Around 1700, a 6-square-mile expanse of land was given to veterans of the Indian Wars. They named the new settlement Volunteer Town due to the fact that they had been volunteer soldiers during the conflict. In 1721, they shortened the moniker to Voluntown. The community was quick to spring up along the fast-flowing Pachaug River, which runs through the forest from Breach Pond to Quinnebog River. Mills began to dot the banks of the river and its tributaries as early as 1711. Nearly every brook in the area has some remnant of the many mills that once graced the forest preserve. Like many other small New England farming and mill communities, progress in technology became their enemy, and soon the small village of Pachaug was on the downward slide. By the Great Depression of the early 20th century, the village was nothing but overgrown roads and crumbling homes. The mills, long dormant, had also fallen into disrepair and were soon consumed by the ravages of time and nature. All that remained among the forests were the ghosts that still hold their vigil to this day amid the ruins of what once was their home. There is a section of the forest called Hell Hollow, along a road and pond of the same name. The name is not necessarily derived from the demonic forces that thrive in the area. The settlers named many parts of Connecticut with prefixes like devil or demon, as the area gave them the feeling that there were supernatural forces at work. In the case of Hell Hollow, the land was rocky and poor, farming was brutal, and the area was prone to flooding. These conditions made the settlers' toils a living hell. Such names have carried on through history. If they are haunted at present, it only adds to the mystery of the locale. A rock formation known as Devil's Den can be seen northeast of Hell Hollow Pond, on the southwest side of Flat Rock Road along the Quinnebog Trail. This may not be of ghostly significance as much as it tends to reiterate the fact that the settlers were probably a bit superstitious. Visitors to this patch of forest have witnessed a dark entity that rushes out of the woods directly in front of them. The dark being is reported to be about 15 feet long and hovers a few feet off the ground as it makes its way across the road. Hikers and hunters alike have given testimony to the strange fiend that lurks in the dark bowers of the forest. Many also get a fearful feeling of being watched while traversing the trails of the Hell Hollow section of the forest. Another haunting in the Hell Hollow area is that of an Indian girl. In the late 1600s, an Indian woman was slain by English soldiers near the present Hell Hollow Road. Since then, her vengeful screams of murder and brutality have saturated the air in a tormenting aria that eerily replays over and over. The screams send even the bravest hunter on his heels for more hallowed ground. The local hunters would not venture far into that area. According to the few I have talked to, they wish to remain anonymous for fear of ridicule, but as one said, when you hear that piercing scream come out of the woods, no one cares what anyone might think. Your hair stands up on the back of your neck and you are out of there. The ghost of a colonial soldier still makes his rounds at a section along the decrepit Breakneck Hill Road. Locals have encountered the vigilant spirit many times over the years as it marches back and forth along the side of the gravel and tar lane. Some have actually almost hit the wraith as it crossed the road, still on eternal duty. Author David Trifolo encountered the ghostly soldier once while traveling along the thoroughfare. He wrote of his experience in his book, entitled The Hauntings of Pachaug Forest. The author was rounding a sharp bend of the road when he encountered a threadbare colonial soldier carrying a long musket over his shoulder. The entity marched into the road right in front of Trifolo. When he hit the brakes, the ghost vanished into the void. The narrow road winds and twists through the forest, making it very difficult to exceed the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit. Because of this fact, the sightings of the soldier have been frequent over the years, as those who witnessed the wraith have plenty of time to verify to themselves that they had encountered. Lauren Nicholson of Quiet Corner Paranormal has heard of others who have made startled by the ghostly guard as it crossed the road in front of them. Motorists have actually driven through the specter. Some have stopped for a moment to reflect on what they just encountered, while others do not stick around for a second meeting. The ghost of this soldier has been witnessed for centuries. The first recorded sighting goes as far back as 1742. The description is the same as the present-day witnesses' accounts. The spirit is dressed in a tattered uniform and holding a long musket slung over his right shoulder. He marches silently and dustily along the bend in the road, sometimes crossing as if looking for something on the other side. The date of the first sighting places him well before the American Revolution. Perhaps he is a remnant of King Philip's War, 1675 to 1676, or Queen Anne's War, 1702 to 1713, which was the second intercolonial war between France and England. Some claim he is from the French and Indian War, yet that conflict took place from 1754 to 1763, several years after the initial appearance of Pachaug's ghostly sentinel. Another spot of spectral relevance is an area of the forest called Maud's Grave. There are many discrepancies as to where the grave is located. Some claim it is in a small patch next to Hell Hollow Pond, while others have put it in the woods off Cedar Road. There are numerous legends regarding the ghost of Maud. One account states that she was a young girl who mysteriously died at the age of 6. Her ghost is seen near her grave, which is a pile of rocks near the pond. Another account states that she was Maud Reynolds, daughter of Gilbert and Lucy Reynolds, who had a small farm on Hell Hollow Road. Maud died just 3 months before her 2nd birthday. A doctor stated the cause of death was diphtheria, which ran rampant in the 19th century. A throat issue would swell, followed by heart failure and death. Maud had reportedly choked on a piece of apple. Her parents found her on the morning of October 12, 1890, with the apple by her side. Having no photograph or portrait of the girl, they preserved the apple in alcohol because it had the impressions of her baby teeth in it. She was the 3rd child of the Reynoldses to die within a few years. She was not buried in the family cemetery. For some strange reason, she was buried across the road from the now decayed family plot. Local legend tells that the mother was so taken aback by the death of her daughter that she buried her on a rise close to the home where she could see the cross that marked Maud's grave. It is in this spot that her ghost is seen, perhaps trying to find her family or wondering why she is not at rest with her brothers. No one has an answer, as she has never spoken. There is a spot in the woods off Cedar Road where a foundation marks the side of a farmhouse. There is also a cement slab that has the inscription Maud Malone, 1647 to 1654. It is barely legible, and the slab appears to be made of cheap concrete. This looks more like a campfire prank than an actual grave. Most people have taken this for the grave of Maud. Several trips to the Pachaug forest, along with interviews of others who have investigated the area, have turned up these interesting facts about the haunts. Pachaug Forest has a lot of history, still rambling amid the thicket that is ever ready to let you know that the ghost town is still tenanted by, well, ghosts. Ghosts of children, ghosts of soldiers, ghosts of a Native American woman brutally murdered by the British. Ghosts, lots of them. And let's not forget Rosamund. Obviously, they described him once again, a dark, misty figure. Also had his run through Pachaug Forest. Now, I didn't bring him with me this time because, bringing a demon around with you a lot can be very draining on your soul, literally. So there are times when I have to separate myself from my hijinks with him. And this was one of those cases. Went to the Pachaug State Forest and just walked around for a bit. Didn't have any particular place I wanted to go. I just wanted to go, So as I'm walking around in the forest, I can hear the sounds of footsteps, many footsteps, running, as if they're running from something. I would look in the direction of where I heard the footsteps, but I'd see nothing at all. Nothing. Then I'd hear laughter, like children playing. Once again, I'd look to see if there was other people in the forest, because it's a state forest. It's not like it's a private place. A lot of people usually are there. But just so happened, every time I would look to investigate these sounds that I would hear, I'd see nothing. There'd be no one around. Now I'm starting to get this really weird feeling. This strange, just like really bad feeling, And I turn to look behind me, and I can see this figure rising up out of the ground. Now, it didn't look like a demon, but he didn't look human either. Well, not like a normal human. He had glowing yellow eyes and teeth that looked like they had been filed down. He was missing his nose, so you could just see like the holes in his face where his nose was supposed to be. His ears looked kind of like elf ears, sort of. And he just stood there after he finished raising up out of the ground. And the visual of him, at first he looked translucent, you know what I'm saying? Like I could see through him. But then he started to solidify. I'm like, okay, this is weird. I've never seen anything like this before. This is different. And I'm not liking how I feel about this differentness. So, I start to back up. And I realize that I've forgotten my holy shotgun. Now I've got my blessed oil, so that's, good there. But I'm missing my holy shotgun. And this thing looks like the holy shotgun, whether it's a demon or not, it's gonna hurt. I don't know if this oil is really gonna do anything except piss it off. But since I didn't have the shotgun, I resorted to my oil. Flung some at it. It just landed on it, dripped down, and it just looked at me, snarling like a wild dog. Right? I can see its muscles starting to tense up, like it was getting ready to come towards me in a pouncing type move. And it did. Jumped right on me. Hands hit my shoulders, and it pushed me down to the ground. and it sat in my face, snarling, growling, just looking at me, but not doing anything more than knocking me to the ground. Now, of course, I'm fucking petrified, scared to death. I don't know what this thing is. I don't know what it wants to do. But I know it can physically harm me. So it's obviously not a ghost. And it doesn't seem, like I said, like any demon that I've come in contact with. Most demons talk a lot of shit, or talk at the very least. This one wasn't talking. I don't even know if it had the means to speak. Now, while it's got me pinned to the floor, I'm looking at it, and I notice that its skin is like writhing, wiggling, and moving. It's like in constant motion. It's weird. It's hard to explain. Almost like slime oozing, but solid in a form. And this started to worry me, because I'm thinking to myself, is this thing gonna like start dripping its nasty moving flesh onto me? And if that does happen, what is it gonna do? So I start to struggle, which might not have been a good idea, but to me, at that particular point in time, it was the best idea. Get this shit off me. So I'm fighting with it, right? And it wrestles me back down to the ground, stares in my eyes. And when I make eye contact with it, all of a sudden, my whole body just went numb. Like I couldn't move. Couldn't feel anything. And it felt like my soul was leaving me. I started to get really scared because I'm like, this isn't a demon. But it feels like it's taking my soul. This is not the devil, because I'm pretty sure he would have kicked me in my balls by now to get some payback. So what is this? Now, as I'm feeling numb and like I'm losing my soul, all of a sudden I hear the loud scream of a woman, which distracted this creature from doing whatever it was doing. It jumped up off me, and then it sunk back down into the ground, and it was gone. I hopped up, brushed myself off, and thanked God that whoever screamed. And then I started to think to myself, this is the Pachaug State Forest. It's probably the Native American girl screaming, because there was nobody else out there. You know what I'm saying? There was nobody else out there. So after the scream, I decided it was time for me to get out of there. There's no point in sticking around. Not for whatever the hell that creature was that popped up out of nowhere. I was scared to death. I had no means of fighting it. Now, as I'm making my way back to the entrance of the state forest, I can see something off, like maybe about 50 yards away from me, but following me. And of course, I recognize what it is. It's this creature. And it's watching me, ducking behind the trees. If I moved up, it moved up, but it stayed, a good distance away from me. Now, I'm close to the exit, and it knows I'm close to the exit because it starts to close the distance between me and it. And I can see that I'm about 20 yards away from the exit. And I'm thinking to myself, I hope running out of this fucking forest saves my life. Because if not, whatever this thing is, if it catches me, I'm fucking done. I'm done. I'm scared to death right now. My heart's racing. I could feel it beating through my fucking shirt. I could even hear it in my ears. I decide the best thing that I can do now is just sprint for it. Give my legs the fucking order. Like Captain Kirk telling Scotty, we need more power. Warp speed, Scotty! Warp speed! Well, that's how I felt. I wanted my legs to move, was in warp speed. Not slow, not kind of fast, not fast. No, warp speed. Get the fuck out of there. And that's what I did. I didn't run warp speed, obviously. I ran very fast. Very fast. And I'm the whole time hoping. The whole time hoping. Because you've seen horror movies before. Usually when somebody's running from something in the woods, one of two things happens. They either trip over some shit, and they can't get up for some strange reason, or they're not paying attention to where they're going because they're too busy looking at whatever is trying to catch them. And then when they turn around to face where they're going, bam, right into a tree. The monster gets them. Done. Eaten. I wasn't trying to have either one of those things happen to me. Now, number one, I knew if I fell, I was getting the fuck back up. If I had to roll, crawl, speed, snake walk, I was not going to just fall on the ground and turn around and on my elbows trying to move backwards. Like, oh God, please don't kill me. I'm only moving at like 1 inch per minute. Oh, no. None of that shit. I fucking fall, roll with the fall, get the fuck back up like a goddamn gymnast and haul ass. Yeah. Anyway. So that's what I'm doing. I'm sprinting, and I'm seeing I'm near the stone archway that denotes the entrance to the park. And I'm almost there, and I run, and I can tell that at the speed it's moving, and at the speed I'm moving, the chances of me clearing this gate before it catches me is real slim. It's real slim. I'm gonna have to pull the extra. You know what I'm saying? What I decided to do was I said, fuck it. If I don't do something different than what I'm doing right now, I'm gonna get eaten by this monster. So I might as well just try some shit. So I jumped. Like, fucking just jumped like I was sliding in the fucking home plate. Now, mind you, there's like gravel and rocks at the entryway, so I knew this was gonna hurt, but not as much as it would probably hurt if I got eaten by a goddamn fucking monster that I have absolutely no idea where it came from. So I dive, right? And just as I'm clearing the fucking gate, his hand reaches out, or its hand, I should say. I don't know if it's a man or a woman or male or female. It's just a monster. Grabs a hold of my calf. Whoosh, rips a big, well, not a big piece of meat, but a good sized piece of meat out of my calf. I scream, fall on the ground, hurt, roll over. And I'm just like, breathing heavy. Oh God. Shit. Oh, my leg hurts. Oh God, what the fuck? And it's standing at the gate. Right at the opening, just looking at me. Takes its hand and licks the blood from my leg off his fingers, and then turns around, starts to walk back into the forest. But before it does, it looks back one more time. It points at me, smiles, and turns around and disappears into the ground. Just like that. Now, I don't know what it was. I have no idea if this is one of those, creatures that people have seen or talk about being in the woods. Or what are they, cryptids? Yeah, I have no idea if it's a cryptid or not. All I know is that if I didn't get out of there, this thing was either going to eat me or eat my soul, which is, like I said, what it felt like when it had me pinned, was staring me in my face. I'm just thankful that I got out of there. Now, in hindsight, I'm figuring maybe I probably should have brought Razamu along with me, because then maybe he could have done some shit and fucked it up, or maybe we could have figured out a way to catch him. That'd be interesting, having one of these little disappearing creatures in a jar. Probably wouldn't fit in a jar. But anyway, when I got back home, I started to look up other instances of things like that happening in Pachaug State Forest. And what I found blew my mind. few stories all throughout history of people going missing in the forest, and them never finding any part of them. No bones, no remains, no clothing, nothing. Just they disappear. There were about 10 cases that were like written of, in papers and shit like that, where they had actually had a record of a person going missing because, these were people that people knew, obviously. But then there were also the stories of travelers and people like that, traveling settlers or salespeople or just travelers in general, soldiers, Native American peoples, tribes people, just lots of different people went missing in this particular patch of forest. I don't know if it was Maud's Grave or Hell Hollow or Hollow Hell or whatever the fuck the name of it was. I don't know. All I know is there's a creature there. And this creature is obviously responsible for all these missing people that have gone missing over these centuries. Where did it come from? Why did it come? What does it necessarily do to a person to make them completely and totally disappear? Does it take them wherever it goes when it phases out of our, dimension, I guess, or reality, whatever? I don't know. I do know that I was frightened for days after realizing what I had seen and how close I came to being one of its victims. Made me think real long and real hard about my future and, doing all this paranormal shit that I be doing sometimes. And also made me think about the fact that, it might be a good idea to keep Rosamund with me on most of these trips simply because he is a demon and he knows if I die and shatter the jar, well, it shatters him. So, I don't think he wants that to happen. I hope he doesn't want it to happen. But I don't know. He's a demon. They be thinking all types of crazy ass shit. Anyway, I started thinking about maybe going back because there's no one has any pictures or evidence that this thing even exists. So I don't expect anybody to believe a word that I'm saying because I don't have evidence. And I was thinking about going back to get evidence. But you have to understand the kind of fear this thing puts in you. Now, maybe I'm not of the generation that the first thing I go for is my phone camera every time something's going on. I come from that day and age. If you saw some crazy ass shit, you either got the fuck out or you call somebody who you thought could handle that shit. But you didn't sit there and record it. So I apologize if I was too scared to pull out my phone, and rather than trying to defend myself, I decided, oh, wait a minute, this thing might kill me, let me record it, instead of saving my own life. No, that's not the way I was thinking. And when I thought about potentially trying to recapture this thing, I thought that I'm not going to hear it coming. It's not like I can set up some cameras here, there, and everywhere and then just wait for it to come walking by. No, it doesn't do that. I mean, it'll chase you when it's in our reality, but it has the ability to just disappear, fade away, phase out, whatever it does. Maybe it's traveling through dimensions and shit. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, they do have a place here called Dimensions Are Us, so you can technically travel to other dimensions. And I don't think this thing travels in that manner. I mean, they didn't have Dimensions Are Us centuries ago. So this thing is old, or things, or wherever these things come from has had this common link all the time. Now, I haven't heard of a whole bunch of other stories in other places of people disappearing all the time, although people do disappear all the time all over the place. But under these circumstances, in these types of places, I haven't heard. Now, maybe there are these beasts, and I'm going to call it the Pachaug beast. Maybe there are Pachaug beasts in other wooded remote areas. Maybe these wooded remote areas have some type of energy or tears and dimensional rifts that allow them to travel freely between our world and their own. Or maybe not. Maybe this is just an isolated incident of a creature that I've saw but have no proof of to show you. I was thinking, like I said, of going back, but My survival brain said, are you an idiot? Why would you go back there, potentially die, to do what? Get a picture of what? Some fucking monster? Who cares? If they don't believe you, they don't fucking believe you. Big fucking deal. You're not gonna die, end up one of those missing people, and then what happens when you're missing, buddy? You can't tell anybody your story because you'll be missing. So, going back there to take pictures, we're not doing it. Now, of course, you have the other part of my brain that's like, dude, you know what? We should go back. We should go back, get some evidence. Get some evidence, pictures, maybe even him make him growl. You know what I'm saying? Try to trap him. Yeah, let's try to trap him. He's a creature, he's not a ghost, so you can catch him. Let's catch him in the net, and we'll take him back, and we'll have scientists study him and shit. And they'll do all types of crazy experiments and things, maybe an autopsy. And that part of my brain, I told to shut the fuck up real fast. I said, hey, no, we're not doing any of that. We're not doing any of that. Now, of course, it was another part of my brain. I was like, listen, maybe you can go set up some cameras, right? It may come out from time to time. Maybe somebody else will be out there walking around and it'll jump out and get them. And then you'll have proof. Now, that idea sounded okay, right? But I wasn't going in that fucking forest. I wasn't doing it. The sensible part of my brain was like, don't even take the fucking chance. Stop thinking about it. Stop. And I did stop thinking about it for about 2 or 3 days. I went back. I'm not gonna lie. I brought Rosamund with me this time. You know, just in case. Maybe he could sense him. Or at the very least, I could throw him at whatever this thing was, and maybe he'd be like all caught up with that. But then I also remembered something. The scream of the girl scared it off. So I started recording all these different scream sounds off the internet and shit and put them onto my phone so I could play them when I needed to. Have myself a little Bluetooth speaker. That was extra loud. Now, I wasn't trying to trap this thing. I wasn't trying to catch this thing. I just wanted to set up some cameras so I could see and have evidence, right? So I put all the cameras up. Bam. Now, I've got one set up with a live feed. Okay? I'm explaining to you why. Well, I just wanted one with a live feed so I can sit home and watch it and not have to wait until the next day. And I put that one towards the front of the forest. I only put 3 cameras up. The front, kind of away from the front, and maybe a third of the way in. That was as far as I was going. I wasn't going deep in the forest because it gets real dark in there even during the daytime. So you know what? Sitting there watching this live feed all day, right? Watching this live feed all day. Now the other 2 cameras are motion activated, so they're not just sitting there recording the whole time. They record when they sense motion. Now they also have little notification icons that tell me, so I can then, click on them and watch them as well. But there was one that I was having just record the whole time, and that was one closest to the front. Just so happens we catch somebody walking in late night. Don't know why they're going in there late at night, but this is late. It's 2 o'clock in the fucking morning. The park is closed at sunset. So what are they doing, right? What are they doing? I don't know what they're doing, but they're doing something that they shouldn't be doing. And I noticed them, they're carrying something over their shoulder. Like a big duffel bag. Something big. I didn't really see it too well. Now this person, I can't see their face or anything like that, but I do see it's a person. Now they walk into this thing, no kind of flashlight, just right into the dark. How they could see where the fuck they were going is beyond me, because they weren't even walking on the path. They went off the path to go into the center of the forest. Now I'm thinking to myself, this isn't good, because I don't have, cameras way in the middle of the shit. I'm hoping that the last camera that I have a third of the way in, has a really good enough zoom that I can zoom in if I have to, which is what I had to do. Now this thing walks past the third camera, right? Person. Still carrying the thing. Comes to a small clearing. Start to zoom in. he drops whatever's in this, bag he's carrying onto the ground. I hear a thud because there's, audio on my cameras. Now the guy starts speaking some foreign language. Can't tell you even what language it sounds like because I've never heard it before. It may not have even been a language known to man. But when he started talking, all of a sudden, the thing came up out the ground. Stands in front of this guy. He's looking at him. He's moving around him, snarling at him and shit, making all types of noise. Right? Now I'm looking at this on my camera. I can see this clear as day. Well, not clear as day because it's nighttime, but it had the night vision shit, so the ambient light lights it up. Now it wasn't like bright and clear, but it was clear enough to see that there were two things. One of those things came up out the fucking ground. It was the thing that I seen, like days before. Now it's like sniffing this guy, walking around him, growling, making noise and shit. Then it looks down at whatever it is he threw on the ground. And it's when I can hear like muffled sounds, like somebody talking through a sock stuffed in their mouth. Right? The guy opens up the bag. There's a man in there. Young guy. Well, I don't know if he was young. I'm going to assume maybe he was. But whoever it is, he's bound wrists and ankles. He's wiggling around trying to get free. A monster jumps on him like he had me pinned down, shoulders. And he stares at this guy, right? Like he was staring at me. And what I see is it's hard to explain. It looked like he sucked the electrical energy out of this person. They tensed up real quick as they were staring at him, making no noise at all. It went real rigid. And then when the thing stopped staring at him and like moved away, their body just crumpled to the ground, lifeless and limp. Then he would pick up the body and disappear wherever it is that he comes from. Now the guy that bought the body there turns around, starts walking out of the place towards the camera, and I get a really good look at his face. And what I saw was the face of that thing. But this one was more human in his motions and, for the most part, in his appearance. But it was one of those things. Clothed, of course. That's why I thought it was a person. And as it walked closer to the camera, I noticed its face starting to change and become more human in appearance. And by the time it got to the last camera, or the camera closest to the exit, it looked completely and totally human. He walked off into the dark, and that was it. I went to play back my footage, and there was nothing fucking there. Nothing. Even though the cameras turned on and started recording, even though I sat there and watched it with my own eyes, when I played it back, there was nothing there. Roswell started to tell me a story about these interdimensional beings. And he described them to me, and they were what I saw. He told me that, in a sense, they are somewhat like demons, where they're from, but not demons, because they don't fuck with the shit in their place. They fuck with the shit in other dimensions. But they don't come to cause trouble and harm. They come to steal your electrical energy and take your bodies back to their dimensions for whatever purposes. I asked Roswell, have you ever been to their dimension? He's like, no.
Nope, never went there. I stayed my ass where I belong, which is in this dimension. You don't go fucking around with other dimensions. There's things that happen, you don't want them to happen. Trust me, I've seen some shit. People, well, one demon, greater demon, he thought he was the biggest shit in Demonville, decides one day he's gonna go do one of these riffs. And that's what he did. And when he came back, he was never the same. He was never the same. He was less of a demon than he was when he left. If you understand what I'm saying. He got downgraded. Satan was mad. Was talking to him. Hey, what the hell happened to you, buddy? You go over to this place, you come back, you're slacking off on your demon duties. I need some souls. You're not filling your fucking quota. You're not doing the things I fucking created you to do. What the fuck's the problem? Well, the demon told him the stories of things that happened in this place. Now, because demons have no souls or any electrical energy, powering ourselves because we don't have organs and shit like you guys do, well, what they do to us is a little bit different. They still are evil. They still are evil, is what they do. They suck us dry. When we come back, we have none. Well, when he came back, he had none, but that'll probably happen to any of us that go there. So we don't go there, as a rule. We don't. Not even the angels fuck with the other dimensions.
Well, that's some crazy ass shit. Well, needless to say, folks, after my discussion with Roswell about these fucking creatures, I realized that there was no way I was going anywhere near any place that I see these types of people walking around. Take away from the story this. You have a trail camera, and your trail camera picks up somebody walking into the middle of the woods without a flashlight like 2 o'clock in the fucking morning, and they're carrying something. They're probably one of these things. And you don't want any parts of them. Now, as for my cameras and everything, well, like I said, I captured nothing, and I was quite upset about it. The only thing that did happen to be captured was the voices. It did pick up him talking and the snarling and the growling and the guy, oh, help me. In fact, that's the only thing you got was the guy. The actual human fucking being was the only thing on camera, which looked weird because he was like floating in the air because he was being carried, and then he got thrown down on the ground and then disappeared. So I got that, but that in itself, like, nobody wants to see that. Oh, it's a prank. Oh, that's a hoax. Oh, that's not real. Oh, what is that? Oh, that's some CGI shit. None of it was CGI. It was all real, and that's why I don't have it, because, like I said, something somehow malfunctioned. Maybe they can't be seen with cameras to record. I don't think that makes any sense, right? Probably not. But like I said, I saw them live streamed. They didn't record. It didn't save them. Just the real, actual human person. And that's it. That's all I have to say about that. Like I said, I've stayed away from any place forest-like, unless, of course, I have Rosamund with me. And we did end up going someplace else that will interest you. But I'll tell you about that another day. Maybe tomorrow. Until then, folks, thank you for joining me for another episode of OmenG's Stupid Scary Stories. Have a good night.